One of the things I like to do is routinely appear on the Rational Boomer podcast. Now, if you've followed me for a while, this isn't the first time you've heard me say that. Well, today is no different. I am a guest yet again on the podcast. Um, the Rational Boomer Mike was traveling. He said it'd be easier if he had a guest. When I was on the podcast the last time, we kind of talked about it, set it up, and so I guest appeared last night. And we had a great conversation. We were talking about a lot of things from the disaster relief and just the Republican response to the disaster relief with the hurricane. Talked about the upcoming election, potential Senate races that could flip, and just we covered a lot of topics. Talked about, after the election and what could happen with the January 6th case. Talked about after the election what could happen with the Republican Party, like we do occasionally. We just covered a lot of topics. And about an hour and a half show. Really good show. I recommend you guys give it a listen if you like my content. You get a nice large dose of me talking about politics with somebody else. And if you're not following the Rational Boomer, you should. If you don't know how to get to the Rational Boomer podcast, search for Rational Boomer anywhere you get your podcasts. Otherwise, I'm going to link him below. I'll tag him below. Otherwise, find the Rational Boomer here on TikTok. He's got a link tree, or rationalboomer.com. He's also available over on YouTube at Rational Boomer. And like I said, I am today's guest for the podcast. So it was another good conversation with Mike. Always enjoy being a guest on the show. We cover a lot. We talk about a lot. It's nice to talk politics with somebody else who, who has a like mind and where we're sharing similar ideas back and forth, without the need to worry about whether or not a Trump supporter is going to drop in and fill in their 2 cents. And all in all, it was a good show. Now, if you want to see the video version over on YouTube, there was also a third guest that happened to appear briefly somewhere in the second half, I believe. My dog decided to jump into the frame, so she's up in there for a little bit too. So if you want to see what my dog looks like, go ahead, check it out for that reason. But overall, it's a very good show. We talk about a lot. Like I said, we cover a lot of topics like we always do, and it's just a very free-flowing conversation. So if you haven't checked out the Rational Boomer, I recommend you do. And check out today's episode where I am a guest. And I can't wait to be back on the podcast again, because it's always a fun time whenever I'm guesting over on the Rational Boomer podcast.